Hello guys, welcome to another video. I'll try to mix videos, one in Romanian and one in English, see how they perform. Mostly, I'm trying to do also one in English because I have some new people watching, hopefully. I've shared my channel with some new people in here in America in Duluth. So if you guys are watching, welcome to the show, welcome to the channel, welcome to me showing you games. Welcome to the, as usual, background with a plant over here. I have the drawing on the wall and I can't really point it. Okay, there you go. I have the drawing on the wall. Don't ask me what it means because I don't know what. So also the orange shirt. So I think we're ready to roll. I'm gonna keep analyzing the games from Las Vegas freestyle, and I'm gonna rock and roll with the semifinal this time. I know it's kind of weird because I've covered the finals and now I'm covering the semifinal, but I haven't checked those games. And what better way to check them rather than with you guys as well too. So let's see how Aronian beat Erigaisi, and I'm gonna cover all of them. Um, we have two games this, and then Hans Mock and Niemann, I believe, against Caruana. So let's see. This position is a little bit different than the ones we've seen, meaning, all right, the rook and the knight have the usual spots. Only these guys right here have different spots, different places. And now I'm just talking slowly because I was thinking, it was going through my mind that once I view the game, once I analyze it, I should also save it at the end. Maybe I should do like self-analysis. Maybe I should go like analysis here, but there's a button for self-analysis because I want to save it in my library as well. Um, wait, how do you do it exactly? Let me say I make a move, all right, and then he makes a move, and let me say I make a random move. Add to library. All right, and then I can just save it. All right, because I'm gonna make moves. I'm gonna make new moves. I'm gonna try to analyze to see the ideas and share with you guys and share my thoughts, share my insights. Hopefully, I can bring I can make your game better. Maybe I can, make you understand it better. That's my hope, at least. That's my aim. That's my target. Everybody to have a better understanding of the game of chess. And yeah, at some points when I upload new videos, maybe have some relation with life too. So A4, what is the point of A4? If you if you play this without saying this is a meme or something like that, I mean that's the first thought, right? A4, to just make a random first move, like even in a normal game, even if they played like a normal game of chess. But wait, why did it go to 26 minutes? Maybe Erigaisi was late for the game, or maybe he thought for a while and he needed to come up with a move, and so he played whatever. I would assume that he's trying to go for the king or just making a move. As I've said, if it's a meme, then it's a meme. But if it has some purpose, for example, like in Alpha Zero style, if this was the castled king position, we would generally want to push the A pawn and A and like airy the A pawn, as some people call it, like David Howell and Jovanka. I think it's Kovaska, Jovanka, something like that. And yeah, and Tanya Sajdev. So yeah, on the other note, if the king was on the king side, then h4, h5 would have made sense. All right, without further ado, let's go. d5, opening up the bishop, controlling the center as well. That's the point. So normal moves, we just open up the bishop too, and it's usually a good idea to move the pawns in front of our rooks. So that's what Erigaisi is trying to do. C6 now, a little bit weird because it blocks the knights, but maybe has a different route for them. Maybe the knight will come to d7 and this one will come to e6 or something like that. I know I've drawn some weird arrows. But yeah, as I've mentioned last time, it's best to open in the beginning to release the bishops first. Release the bishops, and then we'll see what we can do. Also the queen. So now he's hitting the center. Takes. Bishop takes e4. Bishop d7. All right, even developing it. Not sure what the point is. Maybe f5. He's trying to play f5, I guess. Trade some pieces if the g file opens up. And he seems not be worried about the pawn on e7. Also with f5 coming up, there's um I'm thinking if it prevents f5 too. But with f5 coming up, he's releasing a square for the knight. Say we play something weird like h3 f5, and then he can follow up to knight f7 knight d6 gf. Also he wants to take, I would assume. Oh, sorry, white is too much. Takes bishop f3 and then knight f7 with knight to d6 and so on. Um, with the thought that the pawn on e7 is not such a big weakness. It's not so relevant. So yeah. Anyway, knight e3 is what Arjun played. Now he's basically preventing f5 because then at the end he'll have a double attack on the f5 pawn and he will just win a pawn. Knight e6 to develop the knight. All right, I'm wondering where it comes. It can go to c5 and then push a5 to, kind of solidify, to make it solidified there. A little bit of a weird adventure, not gonna lie. C3 to basically make a square for the bishop, for it to be released, to be freed up, to come to C2 back. A knight a6, alright, just preparing to castle, I would say. F5 to hit the knight. Takes, opening up the rook before moving the knight. And we can see that Arjun is playing very, very quickly, 20 minutes against 7, but his pawn is a little bit overextended. Levon's pieces are a little bit more developed. He has more time, I would say. And he went knight c7 with not going knight to c5 because I would say that b4 will come eventually. All right, at the moment, even then, it can come. For example, let's say you castle, or you have to move over the rook in order to castle. All right. I haven't played much freestyle on my own, but if you play b4 and then knight takes b4, don't forget the bishop here. But still, white will win two knights. The only small issue I would say is that this bishop is kind of strong. It will end up being traded for the knight, I would say, once knight c3 hits. Um, but mostly, I mean, white has two pieces for a rook, has two knights for this rook. But if black can organize an attack very quickly, like queen h8 and rook g8, to control the g file and then infiltrate, the king might feel the hit, but I'm not so sure about that. Just knight c3 and then king b1, just forcing the exchange. If you go rook g8 and just let's say queen f2 or queen f1 to have this bishop open up, or even bishop g3, because we want to play bishop g3 in either case. But then then you lose this pawn because you take on c3 and then queen takes. So I guess queen f1. Yeah, and it's very tricky. Like queen d4, this is a weakness. Bishop g3 might come with some counterplay. The rook is not yet, ready to be infiltrated. But yeah, how are you gonna defend c5? And I'm just gonna capture on c3, d takes c3. So yeah, I don't know what to say about the position. Right, queen f5. Yeah, white is better. Okay, okay, all right. Yeah, just two knights against the rook. White is better. I guess B4 is the huge threat. Oh, D4 is even stronger. D4 and you win the knight. Yeah, 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 yeah. Look how easy it is to open up the engine. Just D4. It seems like I was smoking something. Just to, I didn't, but like I was missing it, so you can say I was smoking something. But D4 is the threat, so you cannot castle. And so, anyway, he didn't bring the knight to C5 because he had to face D4 and they would have looked very weird. Yeah, like for example, knight c5, bishop c2. and then you have to make way or here or on b7, and it's not pleasant at all. d4, knight e6, and look at these knights, they don't look well at all. I'm just gonna play knight d2, knight d4, and we saw like +3 when he castled. Now I would say it's +2. Yeah, all right, my prediction is good, and just knight d2, just developing the pieces. So it seems like this pawn is not so overextended after all, and white has a good advantage. So what happened? He had a good amount of time, he had a good advantage too, and the engine classifies this as a mistake. Bishop g3, obviously we want to develop the bishop. So what's going on next? What's happening? Knight e8, let's see how everyone tricked him. So he starts to pick up the pace, and maybe he's gonna blockade this pawn, just remaneuver the pieces, but if he like blocks the diagonal of this bishop and then he castles, still the bishop just cuts right through the dark square by diagonal. Queen f2, queen f4 is an idea, so it's not an easy position. Also, like this pawn kind of restricts both of these pawns. So yeah, white is better. White is much better. Let's see what happens. D4. Also, this bishop is restricted once the knight comes here to blockade the pawn. The bishop is restricted. So let's see what happens. Knight d2. He doesn't mind knight takes e4. Alright, he did manage to castle. And it's very weird because here in 960, chess 960, the king is not passing the rook in order to castle. The king remains in the same position, and the rook can just slide across, even though the bishop is cutting them. So that's a very weird thing I figured I should point out in chess 960. Let me see how much time I've recorded. 11 minutes. My aim was to record the game for 10 minutes because I want to record all the games. I will do it faster for the other ones. So queen h6, so we made some progress here, and then queen h6 comes, but still we have more space with white. Um, the pawns are equal, the material is equal, but we have more forces in the center. As I've said, one pawn kind of limits two. These pieces are kind of weird. So in order for black to stabilize, kind of takes a while. So here he made a decision to trade the bishop for the knight, and then queen g3. He got a tempo, but the bishop was very strong. Maybe he was a little bit fearing knight d5, though. I would say there's nothing to fear really. For me with white, I would play something like king c2 and then rook f1. Let me just close out the engine so you guys don't say I picked. But yeah, just this and this knight d5. I would consider even something like knight c4 and then knight e5, something like that. And I cannot kick the knight to play knight e3. I would just capture en passant, and it looks like a bad position for him, honestly. And look at this. Just because of this bishop is here, cannot even play king c7. Rook a8, king b7, and rook d8 is something. So yeah, just trading the strong bishop for the knight was very questionable, and he dropped for 20 from 20 minutes to 9 minutes. But he found some pretty good moves, and Levon has 2 minutes, 36 seconds on the clock. Yeah, this I would say is a positional blunder, if nothing else, or a big mistake positionally. And he took 7 minutes to decide on it. So king c2, just the first move. And what's like the other moves that he could have tried? Oh yeah, definitely knight d4. I would have prepared king c2 first to unpin, but yeah, knight d4 and here, or knight ec4 and here. So all with these ideas, yeah, all makes sense. So anyway, bishop takes d7. Let's see the game. Queen g3, knight d to c4, coming to e5. But now we are pinned, and we don't have any issues with the pin. The only thing is he will play bishop f6, bishop g5. Um, this pawn might be a weakness long term. Maybe he wants to play knight f4. Also, let's see what happens. King b1. Why didn't he like king c2 though? Is it bishop b4 and knight b4? I don't see it. Okay, yeah, I don't see it. Just knight e3 takes and queen d6. So black just wants to get the queens off the board. This queen is kind of strong, and I mean, rook g1 is a possibility. But yeah, if in case of trading, then this pawn will no longer be backwards. Then black has an open e file. So the position really gets balanced, and black has two bishops. He will play something like bishop to f6. We don't have access to g7, so rook g1, rook g7 is impossible. So like we cannot hit these targets. Therefore, I mean black can even be better long term. So king b1, queen g7 to try to get the queens off the board anyway. Check. King a2, queen h2. So Arjun sacrificed the pawn, but he can take on d5. Oh, and this is the mistake he took twice. He shouldn't have taken another time. Um, A6, wow. A6 is hard to see. Man, that's very hard to see. You cannot take because of mate, and you just kind of rip open the king. But it's so strong, man. Now queen d5, and then queen a8 is the move, right? Or knight a5 even stronger. To release the bishop, threaten bishop a6 and queen d5 at the same time. And the knight on a5 is kind of strong because it's very close to the king. Well, yeah. So still queen takes d5 still keeps a small edge, a small plus. So queen c7 is basically what happened. Um, queen c7 and for example something like bishop to c6 is what he wants to do. So what's going on next? Queen f7, he sacrificed the pawn, Aronian, and now Arjun has 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Aronian has 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Bishop c6, knight to e3, and this is like the point where it turns. Oh, he just blundered a5, or he blundered bishop takes d4. What's going on after bishop takes d4? The rook gets in. Oh, and this king is very weak. You hit the bishop, and then queen a5 is a big threat. Yeah, and the rook gets activated. Wow, bishop takes d4 is just insane. But was queen a5 ever an option? I imagine that he calculated this, and he wants to have pressure against a7, basically tie the queen up, and maybe he was thinking knight c4 or queen e6 here, or something like rook a3, rook b3. I believe this was Arjun's thought process. But anyway, bishop takes d4, brilliant move. So Aronian looks like he was in top form. Queen e6, bishop d7. So let's see what happens if he takes, actually. C takes d4, queen a5 check. Oh, and you just pick off the knight with queen a1. All right, queen a1, king a2, or queen c2, and I guess you take there. And here queen e3, and yeah, the bishop is hit, the pawn is hit, is loose. Yeah, we have everything defended. Rook will enter the game. Rook takes d4, and then the king is very very weak. So black is completely winning. So he didn't take the bishop. Arjun didn't take the bishop. He played queen e6, bishop d7, queen e4. Try to keep everything intact. But still, queen a5 is a threat at all times. I guess still he wants to play king b1, rook a3, rook b3 if he gets the chance. So there's nothing supporting b3. Anyway, bishop c6 to hit the queen, repeat the moves a little bit to gain some time on the clock. Bishop to f6, and finally, because this pawn is gone, the shield of the king is kind of broken a little bit. Knight d5 though, sacrificing the pawn again. Queen c5, because he had to move because the rook was attacking the queen. So these are like middle game complications. They haven't reached the end game and it's move 32, rook a2. Yeah, and the king was always loose. That's basically the theme of the game. The king being weak. Knight is f6, ef6. Alright. But what about now? King g2 check, check. Oh, and just a double attack. Wow, that's nasty. Queen d3 and queen a2. Yeah, yeah, tough break for Arjun. He was leading on the clock the whole game. He was better out of the opening, but then he just made that positional terrible blunder, giving up the bishop from g3, and then just the game just went downwards, downhill. Yeah. Right, let's look at the next one. So this was the first out of their match. And then the second game out of their match, Levon won again, but this time Levon had white. And it's a different position, as you guys can see. It's very, a little bit beautiful, a little bit, coordinated, wonderful like this. Like two bishops, two Bs, then two knights, then two rooks and the queen. But what I mean is like they are very coordinated like this. The pairs, like one pair of socks, one pair of shoes, and so on. Anyway, d4 to control the center, f5, c4, same idea, b6, e4 to try to open up the center, fe4, bishop takes e4. As I've said, releasing the bishops and making some trades, making some exchanges. Now, Black will honestly, in my opinion, for example, first he opens up the bishop, but then I would try, if I were Black, to play something like knight d6 and hit the rook. I wanted to gain tempi. That's what I want to do. Or queen f5 also works, hitting the rook. Castles, all right. Everything was released. So one knight goes here, just developing the pieces. The other knight goes as well over here. Make sure you have everything intact. So the other knight's defended. Queen d7, queen e2, e6, solidifying everything, covering all the spots. Castles, knight to e7, trying to develop to bring out the pieces. That's what you have to do. Knight g4, and you can see the strategy, basically occupying the outpost on e5. So he was playing very positionally. And now Levon is picking up the pace. He's gaining more confidence. He's moving faster. Now, bishop to b2, this makes sense to always have the option of bishop to a3 and change the diagonal because we are stuck with the pawn on d4. Also, if we were to mark our outpost, this is like a dog and it wants to mark its territory. I want to play this knight instead of the knight on g4. Or maybe the knight on g4 also works. Maybe the knight on g4 also works because h5 might come, but if he ever plays h5, then his whole position will weaken up. Bishop d6 makes sense, not to allow bishop to a3 and bring the bishop to the center, right? Knight to e5, takes, takes, and we want to take, I would say I want to take with the pawn just to kind of increase my scope from for the bishop just by a little bit. But he might take with the queen. The bishop takes. Yeah, he did take with the queen to have this as a weakness. So, and then the bishop will try to remaneuver, I would say. Now bishop to a3, just to change the diagonal. Knight f7, hitting the queen. Knight d6 is very interesting that he didn't play knight d6. I would say perhaps bishop to a3. We will play f3 to kick away the knight. The knight wants to come to e4. It cannot go there immediately because the rook hangs. But yeah, we will just kick it with f3 when the rook moves and then the knight wants to move. I would don't really want to trade the bishop for the knight, honestly, because I can just keep it at bay. So anyway, knight h6. Maybe she's trying to reach to f5, and then I don't know, something like g6, h5. Though I would be wary in moving my pawns in front of my king. Rook f6, okay. Rook g6, rook f8, perhaps. f3. All right. Um, just taking away the e4 pawn and yeah, and g4 too, taking away this square. What else? And also nullifying the pressure on f2. Maybe rook e2, rook f e1, doubling up would have come. So yeah, knight f5, rook f2. Oh, and he wants to double up this way instead of rook 2. That's kind of cute. And he did play h5. Yeah, you have to secure the spot for the knight. He's trying to prevent h4. Now if h4 comes, just g4, and we kick away the knight, right? We cannot even go to e6 because of g5. And if he goes to e7, um, yeah, I would say something like bishop c1 or rook e2. This is a target. I mean, we have everything. We have all there is in the world. We might play h3 at some point too, strategically. Oh, this is how they played. Oh, he did really play h4, but now his knight is kind of okay. Now he's trying to get in the game with knight f4, but then we will just take. He's trying to go after our weakness, but his weakness seems a little bit more prominent, and the rook is kind of hanging. If we play bishop g5, oh, he took immediately. All right, 9 minutes against 17 minutes. Arjun is playing very fast. People were mentioning that he has a great speed. He's like I show speed for chess. So h3, very important move. Um, Very important move to prevent h3 at all times from him. Even as a sacrifice, we play king g2. h3 might come just to lure our king over there. For example, king g2, and then we play something silly. Let's say, um, yeah, like this. Rook e2, h3, check, and then rook f3. Just to illustrate the point, we did play something silly. There was something random. It didn't happen in the game, but just for me to illustrate the point. That's why he played h3. Anyway, cd, cd, h3, queen f6. And now he has 3 minutes. Arjun had 16 minutes. How did he lose this position, Arjun? It looks like black is pushing, honestly. I wanted, like I've said previously, that we have a pressure here with white. He has pressure here, but it seems that he has pressure on d4 as well. It seems that he controls the open c file. So I'm just wondering, like, it feels like black is better here. Yeah, and he is marginally better. Only by a small plus, though. So he played rook e2, b4, and then what happens? Okay, takes. Now he's making a square over here. Rook c3 is the point. Did he take on e6? Maybe it wasn't necessary to rush. Maybe king f7 was also good, like just not giving up e6. Is this what happened? Oh no, rook d3 first. Alright, don't mind me, guys. He didn't even take on e6. Queen f8, queen e1. Alright, he's making the Alekhine gun. And he has 6 minutes now. Looks like he was moving instantly. This is crazy. 13 minutes for Arjun. Still has more time. So he was moving instantly. He didn't manage to infiltrate with the queen and everything. Like, yeah, it wasn't easy, definitely. I'm not sure if he had any points where he could have gone better. Like here, he has almost minus zero point 0.7. Let me see if earlier had somewhat of an advantage. Now this is equal, almost equal. Now black is starting to take over the initiative and to gain some advantage. But what was the small mistake? Like it was minus 0.5. Oh, he had e5. Oh, so there was a moment where Arjun had e5. All right. Yeah, that would have been very nasty. Maybe still with a small plus, though. I mean, he's making a passer. You would have to take, though. Yeah, I guess Rook C8 is not such a big mistake because he's still, as I've said, controlling the file. Oh, but here A4 is better than B4. To try to get a passer on the A file, try to form this as a weakness and play Rook B8, Rook B3. Yeah, this is good to keep in mind actually. All right, so B4 and then says that the position equals up. He shouldn't. No, okay, this is fine too. No, so B4 was fine. Rook b3, queen g6. He should have played. But still, I mean, it goes from 0, 0 to minus 0.3. It's like the engine is not so good either. And it seems that I won't be able to cover like so fast the games so quickly. And now, yeah, now they just maneuver the pieces. Oh, wow, and white gains some advantage. G5, like putting the pawn here strategically wasn't the best choice. Yeah. And he's always threatening to come over with the queen, so it's very, very bothering. And he basically has draws because if he draws, like Aronian won the first game, I believe that if he draws, he wins the match with 1.5 to half point. So Arjun was forced to go for a win. He had to play for a win, and then he made a mistake. He played King F8. He should have gone King E8, I would assume. No, Queen G7. Just to try to sacrifice the pawn and then play. Yeah, but that's a draw at best, right? But yeah, then he just lost queen d7 and then rook e6 comes, but first queen d6 and then rook e6. Yeah, and the king is so weak. The rooks are coming over. It's basically a tempo difference. Rook g4 and then he tries to go for something. Maybe he's hoping for a perpetual and just rook e1 takes, takes, and white is up a rook and it's all over. Unfortunate for Arjun. He didn't play badly in this game either. He was marginally better, only a small plus. Then it was hard. First, you have to improve the pieces. First, you have to gain real threats. He had a moment to push e5, had a moment to push a4, but a4 honestly was very similar to b4, so I wouldn't judge him for that. Anyway, oh, I forgot to save the analysis. Anyway, all right, I'll try to remember for myself for the next game. Oh, and I have four more games to cover. Let me see. So, okay, let's start with the first one. Let's start with this draw. Still the position, as we've seen from Erigaisi against Aronian in the first game. So Caruana against Niemann, now their first game of the match. Still a4. So it seems that it was pretty good move. What's the best move from the engine at the first one? It's g4 actually. A4 is the third, but it keeps switching. G4 to release, to release the bishop and to get more space for the rook as well, right? So G4. G4, F4, E3, knight BC3. All right. Yeah. All right. A4 is not so bad anyway. D5, G3 to release the bishop. Bishop C6, D4, G6 to release the other bishop. As we've seen in freestyle chess, you have to release the bishops first. Knight BC3 to hit the target. D4, the knight comes in the center. We just make an exchange. Takes queen c4. As we've also mentioned in the previous video, you have to activate the queen c4, queen c5 to offer an exchange. Alright, but black seems to be kind of fine here, I would say. Maybe, oh, okay, not fully equalized. We still have very good pieces. Knight 1 to e3 is good. And then the bishop comes to c3. Honestly, like I would say the main problem is this knight on a6 and maybe some weaknesses on the queen side that we can get to quicker than him. So let's see what happens. Knight 1 e3, he takes back, trying to say, okay, I made a weakness for you. Rook to e8, having a small threat of taking back, and then rook takes, just simply e4, solidifying the knight as well. Knight c5. Yeah, it's a little bit of a nuisance, so to speak, at the least, right? Bishop to b4. Is this what he prepared? And now if he takes, perhaps 97, maybe rook e1, something like that, I would say. 97. Let's see what he calculated, actually. Oh, and he even castled. All right. Looks like white is almost winning, honestly. Oh, yeah, +2. Then how did he escape with a draw? That's crazy. So the pawn was really poisoned. Was really 95. Okay, that looks like a brilliant move. If he if he takes, then rook e1. He played rook c8. He played the best move. If you would have taken, then just rook g1, king d7 because you have to protect the rook. Rook d5, check. And if king c6, I guess what? Because this rook is hanging too. Oh, I can take and then bishop to e7, I guess, at least, to win the game. Because the knight is pinned and the rook is hanging in the corner, just bishop to e7 and I'll take. I'll be up a piece and I'll win the game. So that was Caruana's idea. But yeah, plus 2.5. Rook c8, okay, he's finding the only move. Knight f4. Alright, and how much time he had? 12 minutes, Hans, 8 minutes for Caruana. Let me see if he thought for a long time. No. He was actually thinking for a long time before these moves when he was to trade the queens and such. So yeah, knight f4 is a mistake. Um, was like bishop c3 seems to be that's what the engine is recommending. Bishop c3 plus 2.3. The point is to play knight f6 then to have a double attack to make a fourth, and then f5. Let's see the line. F5, knight f6, rook e7, and then what? How does the position look? I would say like putting a rook here or just hitting the pawn. Rook gf1 only move. Rook f7. I saw this, but oh, and then you get rook d7. Is that right? Oh, now you play rook f1. So not taking here. Can also take with the knight, and then he's completely fine. So rook f1, and if you play king f5, then just rook d5, rook e5, and then rook takes. So we will win the pawn back. We will have two active rooks. The bishop is better than the knight. We have more activity. We have two developed pieces. His rook is a little bit weird, uncoordinated. And if he plays something else after rook f1, if he tries to run away with the king, just takes, king f8, bishop to b4 check, c5. Oh, and then we take the knight. Bishop takes c5, and then we take the knight. And if he doesn't play that, he doesn't play c5. Oh, and now rook e8, and we just win the knight, and it's all over. So yeah, see how Caruana could have won the game. Alright, so knight d5, rook c8, knight f4 check, king f6, rook g2 e1, knight c6, bishop c3 check, king g5. Alright, still holding the advantage, still holding the advantage, but white is down a pawn, so let's see what happens. Let's see how he untangled. He gave up a pawn to survive, trade a pair of rooks, gave up another pawn, and now he tries to activate pieces. And he's trying to hold this endgame, right? And yeah, it's close to a draw, almost 0-0. Yeah, now three. Now, okay, white will have three against two, but still, bishops of opposite colors, too little material. Yeah, all right. And was a draw. Unfortunate for Caruana, he played very well in the opening. Um, Anyway, let's see the next game. Let's see, I think we have time to do all of them. So let's see the second one. Second position, as we've seen from Levon Aronian against Erigaisi. Alright, just controlling the center. Then we open up the bishop. Does the same. Alright. It almost looks like it's the same game as Aronian against Erigaisi. And now basically what you can notice the main difference as of right now, two pawns against three on the queen side. So there are ideas for black to push them later on, to do the minority attack and then make a weakness out of the lonely remaining pawn and then try to win it, capture it, that's the point. And then to play four against three and to try to win the game with the pawn up. Well, let's see, because it's not as easy. Rook g4, just making a threat on the king. Yeah, queen c6, knight e3 just developing, and I like how the knights come. They come beautifully like this, just hitting the queen with the tempo. They develop castles, f4. It looks a little bit dangerous to play this move because the rook will open up, the bishop will open up. We didn't castle yet, but he wants to get the queen out of the way to make space for the rook, as otherwise he cannot castle. And yeah, black is better here. F6 was the mistake, but then the computer screams for F5, and this looks like an obvious move. F5 and okay, E4 you cannot play because the bishop is here. But okay, Rook F7. It's the same, almost the same idea that he played in the game. Only he did it with F6 to solidify the position, close out his bishop. But with F5, I guess he always keeps the idea of pushing F4. Wait, because now the evaluation drops. I guess this engine is kind of messed up, maybe. So F5 is not so strong, H5 is better. Was screaming for minus 0.9, and now 5 rook g3 rook f7. Alright, so only a small plus, but still it says a mistake. Yeah, only a small plus with minus 0.3. I wouldn't really judge him, honestly, because yeah, F5 just hitting the rook. He never had a chance for F4, so yeah, just queen e2. 97. Now you castle, now you bring the rook out of the corner. But yeah, black has a fine position, I would say. And white has a target here. H4, knight f8, queen d1, queen f7, queen g4. Trying to organize the pieces, maybe, orchestrate an attack with knight f5, maybe rook e2, rook f2, something like that. I don't know. or just trading the queens and then bringing the knight over. So for black, it was all about fortifying this point, defending the pawn, and just playing around it. Takes. Yeah, takes. The knight is brought to the center. The rooks are traded even. Does he try to win the game? Nah, just a draw. Just a simple draw. Alright, let me see if I can save this game. Let's stop the analysis. I didn't put too many. Alright, so I have this here. Partida Super GM, it means Super GM games. And now let me go to the next two ones. Uh, Draw, and in the end, in the final one, Niemann won. So that's kind of unfortunate to win one game and then eliminate Caruana. So here we can see it's a new position, still opening up the bishop. Black does the same. Then we, try to make take space on the queen side, and it's actually now 10 plus. What's the time control? They start with 10 and 10 seconds. They start with, and it's probably added 10 seconds for each move because it's 10:19. So I guess 1 second was dropped, and he was playing instantly. Yeah, they're probably 10 plus 10. 10 minutes and 10 seconds plus 10 seconds per move. All right, and then developing pieces. White wants to grab as much space as possible on the queen side. Black wants to develop pieces. B5, castles, castles short. Bishop to A3 to hit the rook, but just D6 and he can. But okay, he didn't want to play D6. If D6, what's the point? He just wants to not make any weaknesses, perhaps. He wants to play C65, I guess, perhaps. Or just D5 right away. No, just trying to sacrifice a pawn, takes, and then bishop E6. What's the point? Alright, black is better, and if you take, I just take. Oh, okay. And the engine says black is much better. The queen is brought out very weirdly. If you go to c5, what's going on? The queen is kind of misplaced. Just bishop g7, bishop f8. Look at this, man. And bishop to f8 to just win the bishop here. Queen b4, f4. This knight is also hanging. It's very loose. And bishop to f8 again. So knight g1, c5. Wow, look at this. c5, if you take bishop to f8, will win the bishop. If you take en passant, then you just open up everything. This queen is weirdly placed. The rook also to the bishop to f5 coming over. Bishop to f5 or bishop to d5. If bishop to f5, there's rook b8. But if bishop to d, because rook b8 also hits the queen. But bishop d5, queen c2, and just rook b1, queen b1, and rook b8. Yeah, and then bishop b3, for example. I mean, yeah, black is just much better winning. Even he would take the b file under control. For example, something like this, queen c2, and maybe even queen b7 or something, or bishop g2. He wins the exchange in the end, and that's it. That's game. So f4 is what he played. So this was a poison pawn. That was very beautifully played by Caruana. Now e4, very well strategically, 7 minutes, 7 minutes. So they played almost kind of the same, very quickly. Is this like another chance he missed? Caruana missed another chance. All right. Okay, he tries to remaneuver the knight. Still holds the edge. Not a big advantage, but a considerable one. d4. Look at these pawns. Look at these pawns. Look at the pawn mass. The pawns are doing the job. Only thing is, if I take twice and then I take with the knight, but he wants to play rook g8, just hit the bishop. Okay, but what happens after the bishop moves? He didn't play rook g8, played queen, played d takes c3. But if he had played this and just had given up the pawn, what's going on? C takes, knight takes. Oh, and now now the engine drops below. So just keep the pin, don't take. But what if he plays e3 and just solidifies the pawn? I don't get it. I guess you just want to play something like knight b6, knight c4. It's all about weaknesses on the other squares too, on the light squares as well. If you ever play e3, you will no longer be able to play d3. Yeah, and then the queen comes around. Queen h4, an even bigger threat. Yeah, it just looks green. It castles. Now you take, and if I take, just knight b6 with a double threat here, and a threat on the knight. Queen d5 also. Yeah, knight c4 coming up, rook c8 coming up, rook c8 doubling up, bringing the other rooks. It's just very bad. This bishop is so strong. This bishop is doing nothing. Basically, that's the theme of the game. The bishop on h8 on the long diagonal versus the bishop on a3. Alright, knight c2, d takes c3, and he even played queen c1. He cannot. Okay, so rook g8, he didn't go for. But this wasn't bad either. Like d takes c3, and this is a weakness now. The bishop is very strong as well. Knight b6, knight c4, or knight to a4, and then taking on c3. And I don't really think that you can prevent. So knight b6, I don't think you can prevent the knight coming over here, not the capture really. But then once the knight lands here, then just taking on c3 next. Oh, you have queen c2 here, and if knight c3. Can you survive this one? Oh, rook b3. Look at these engines moves. Disgusting engine lines. Wow, that's crazy. Just sacrificing two pawns and then even sacrificing an exchange. It comes with check and then you open up the position. This is disgusting, honestly. And white is just better. Why is white better? Queen takes b3, rook e6. Oh, because everything falls. Knight f5 falls. There's bishop c5 luring. There's knight d6 with knight e4. If you play b6 to defend c5 and defend e4, knight e3 and f5. Oh, and just f5, f6. I'm wondering. I would say just to close. Yeah, and then rook f6 and then queen c3, right? Yeah, basically. Look at this crazy engine line. That's just so disgusting. And then bishop b2. And having two bishops for a rook. Having two bishops and a knight for two rooks, actually. Yeah, anyway, he played queen c1, and now it's Caruana's chance to strike. Queen takes d2, b6, solidifying everything, and Caruana is up a pawn. He has a passer over here. Queen e3, knight f6, opening up the rook, threatening 95. It's minus 2.7, minus 3. White is just win. I mean, black is just winning. Rook e2, he takes another pawn, a second pawn. How did he not win this? Queen c8. All right, rookie one is understandable. He didn't see rookie three. Maybe he saw, but he didn't play it at least. Yeah, and then basically the bishop comes over, the knight comes to d5. While rookie three just removing the blockader. This is like in a Petrosian style, positionally and strategically and tactically the same. So queen c8, bishop to f1, queen c7, hitting the pawn. Black is up two pawns. Still it dropped. Okay, now he's only up one pawn, but the king is a little bit loose, the king is a little bit weak, and bishop to b2 is coming. So this bishop is closed now. If you ever move the knight, there's queen h7. Now I can see that white got some chances. If he moved around, he was playing also on his clock. Hans has 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Caruana has 42 seconds. They repeated a little bit just to gain time on the clock. Oh, and then they drew. Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to press. It's hard to press with the clock position. It's very unfortunate. He was up 2 points. He was minus three earlier. Now he's plus three. Caruana was plus three. Now it's plus one. It's hard to press. Hard to press with such little time. So I guess it's an understandable decision. But man, if he had handled his time, and I forgot to save it again. If he had handled his time better, I mean, it was very unfortunate. Look how crushing in a game of chess B. Now Hans wins. Let's see how. He first opened up the rook. Okay, black gets a better position. There are some weaknesses. The black diagonal is weak. The dark squares are kind of weak. I believe Hans was mentioning something like if he didn't want to play e5 to close out the bishop. Not here, earlier. Knight f6 makes sense. All right. Now it's like whenever I see beginners, whenever I coach my students, I tell them, hey, don't play too many moves with the pawns. And it's kind of similar here too. Yeah, they play too many moves with the pawns. I mean, Caruana did. He's obviously not a beginner. He knows what he's doing, but he's just putting pressure. Hans is probing everything. Now he castles, just trying to develop the pieces. D3, H5. Now trying to, trying to probe. It's like he's hitting, with the ball. He's shooting at the goalie, whatever you say, at the goalkeeper. G5 takes. There's a tactic. There's a combination here. Oh, no, the queen defends this. Oh, and the rook is hanging at the end. All right. So he did win a pawn. Now the knight moves. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Just he's in control, as he mentioned in the interview against ChessBase India. I mean, with ChessBase, with Sagar Shah. He has a passer here. His king is tucked away. He only needs to figure out the knights, where to move them. Knight c7 to e6, perhaps to d4. Is the plan to figure out what to do with the other knight. But knight a4 is just on the cards. And to make way with the bishop here, and looks just very unpleasant. Okay, he's defended twice, so he cannot give two pieces for a rook. But still, just bringing the rooks over very well. The king is protected, just trying to push through and hit the weakness. His knight as well. When d5 comes, it's gonna be very trouble time. Or knight b6, even better. Yeah, just remaneuvering the knight to an outpost. This bishop is out of the game for good. He's also 58 seconds in. Arona. Very unfortunate. Now, I may sound that I'm not a Hans supporter or a fan. I wouldn't say that. I like Caruana though. I mean, I like his style. I like how he plays. So yeah, Hans opened up the position. He just improved his bishop outside of the pawn chain, brought it to an outpost, and now rook h4. Brilliant move to finish the game. And then just rook h4, knight f3, hitting this. If the rook leaves the h file, then queen h2 comes, and if he keeps like he moves to h3, then queen g5, I would say, or knight g5, and then to f4. Okay, all right, knight f4. Yeah, but he's what, 3-5 against 4. He's up one pawn, and then threatening mate, threatening the bishop, and it's all over. And Hans won the match, and then he proceeded to the finals, and you guys know what happened. All right, so yeah, now I didn't really put any new moves in the analysis. That's the game. Those were the games that I've covered. I hope you guys enjoyed. Now I'm gonna make it a big image so that I can wrap it up. And yeah, all I wanna say is thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I kind of moved on the chair, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you liked the commentary. I hope you liked watching the tournament. I hope you liked my coverage. Hope you liked the insight and my feedback. If you did, just drop a comment below. Tell me what you liked. What should I do differently? Any suggestions, any improvements? And thanks for watching. Always feel free to subscribe to the channel, support me. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.